It's showtime. What's up, good people? And welcome to the Frank Harris Show, the biggest, the baddest, the best, and the most provocative show on earth. And look who we got back, my boy, Dominican E.
What up, Frank?
Yo,
What up,
E.
Frank?
What's the words, E?
Ain't much, man. Ain't much, Frank. You again with those big words. I don't know, man.
You know I got to get the big words in it because you know I got to show people I'm an intellect too, man. I'm not just out here sprouting crazy information. I'm an intellect too. We got to put that out there. But yo, E, last time on the when I had you on the show, I got a comment from somebody saying how handsome you were, bro. What's up, bro?
Yeah.
Somebody talking about Dominican E so handsome. Yo, E, yo, what you had your girlfriend comment on the show?
No.
Come on, E. You know what I'm saying? Come on, E. Got your girlfriend commenting on the show and all that. Come on, Bop.
Again, groupie love, Frank.
Oh, E, that's hilarious. Groupie love on the Frank Harris Show. You gotta love it, bro.
Yeah.
Dominican E.
Yeah.
Yo, E, so E. Oh, E, we on the eve of something sweet, baby. Something that me and you both love to watch. Okay, E?
Yeah.
We got college football season is here,
Yes.
E. College football season is here. We got to get into it. The storyline, their teams, their players. E, who you got as the number one team in the nation right now?
Man, obviously Georgia. Georgia's the top dog right now. You know, they're the top dog. Georgia is the top dog. That defensive front. I mean, they're phenomenal. I mean, they just might as well just call it defensive line U, because they spin them out. They spin them out to the NFL like first round after first round after first round. I mean, those.
Shoot, offensive. So E, so I got Ohio State,
Ooh.
right? You got Georgia. Let me say this, right?
Ooh.
Georgia also has probably one of the best quarterbacks, right? He's probably the guy right now that's highest on the quarterback being drafted list, Carson Beck,
Yes.
right? Beck is a pretty good quarterback as well. They get, like you say, great defensive linemen, good skill position players. So very good team in the SEC, excuse me. I still think Alabama's going to beat them this year in the SEC. And you know I'm an Alabama fan, but Georgia's a good team. I got to go Ohio State because I think top to bottom, that roster has the best players, right? And Will Howard, who transferred in from Kansas State last year, who was a great player, is going to helm that offense in a major way. And so, E, let me ask you a question about Ohio State, because I got Ohio State ahead of Georgia, but Georgia's an interesting pick. Do you feel like Ryan Day is a victim of his own success? Because he's on a hot seat. Like, it feels like Ryan Day's on a hot seat every year, and Ohio State is pretty darn good every year.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Ohio State is really, really good. I mean, they're a top program every year, and every year you talk about Ryan Day being fired.
But Frank, let me say this.
Okay.
Got the last couple years, they lost. They've been losing to Michigan, and you know that's a big rivalry game. You know what I'm saying? So that right there, and then he can't win the big game, Frank. He can't win the big game. You lose the rivalry game, you make the playoff, and you can't win the big game. With all that talent that he has, I mean, he has C.J. Stroud, he had the wide receiver Harrison, he had all this talent and couldn't win the big game. And then you lose to Michigan. You know, you lose a couple years to Michigan, you on a hot seat, Frank. If you lose a couple years to Michigan, you on a hot seat.
Well, they beat Michigan. They're going to beat Michigan this year, I think, right? So, yeah, you lost to Michigan. The quarterback last year was good, not great. He transferred out. You got somebody else in with the NIL package, the transfer portal. Look, I think Ryan Day, it's amazing, Eric, that the guy's losing like 1 to 2 games every year and he's on a hot seat. The expectation in college football today is nuts. You lose 1 or 2 games every year, Eric, at Ohio State. I mean, it's like national championship or bust.
Yeah.
Right? It's crazy. And by the way, speaking of the rivalry between Michigan and Ohio State, boy, did Jim Harbaugh would stick it to everybody, right? Jim Harbaugh, he bought Michigan the championship, right? He played there. He bought them their champion. He cheated to do it, by the way. He cheated to do it. Right? No, Eric, we saw the violations. They came out. He cheated to do it, and he knew it. He knew he cheated to do it, and that's why he left for the NFL. Right? He got the ring.
Yes.
Okay. He left the black coach with all the violations, right? And by the way,
ironically, right?
he was involved in it too. right? Sharon, they left him with all of the violations, and he went and got a big with 80 some crazy deal for the Chargers,
Yes.
right? Harbaugh, gangster.
Yes.
What cheated, got the championship when there was got a show cause penalty right now. Couldn't coach in college football this year, and he went and got, I think, 80 some crazy number from the Chargers.
Hey, I'm not mad at Harbaugh. Way to do it, Harbaugh. Way to go.
Gangster, right?
Facts. That's
Yo, E, by the way, listen, I don't want to always say this, right? But let's talk about my Crimson Tide, those Alabama boys. New coach, the great Nick Saban left. The great Nick Saban, the best college football coach in the history of college football. Is that fair?
yeah, I would say that. Better than
Okay, because you a hater when it
better
comes
than
to
Bear
my man
Bryant.
Nick Saban.
Better than Bear Bryant.
Yeah, Bear Bryant was racist, Bear Bryant, right? But it was what it was, right?
Here we go again.
But E, great coaching,
Yeah.
right? DeBoer did great at Washington. You know, he was a great coach. Led Washington to the national championship game. All right. At Alabama now, we got Milroe coming back, who I feel that Milroe is the best quarterback in college football.
Wow. It's a strong statement.
Best,
That's a strong statement.
best, huh?
That's a strong statement. Strong statement.
Well, let me tell you why, right? Got the prettiest and probably the best long ball pause in college football, right? The guy gets the ball down the field, great arm, rocket, okay? Legs, the guy, he can move around in the pocket. He can get you yards with his legs, right? The intermediate game is something, the touch stuff, he got to continue to improve on, but I think he's gotten better on that. And I think the way he played last year toward the end of the year, the way he grew, Eric, the way he grew was unbelievable. And I think now coming in, and by the way, the new guy is I think it's going to open it up a little bit more, right? Nick Saban played a more conservative style, right? Let his defense win. Well, not conservative, because, I mean, guys like Tua threw the football, right?
Yes.
But Nick Saban ran the ball a lot. And that's why Alabama has so many great running backs in the NFL. And Alabama always has a great offensive line, but I think they're going to open up the field more. Like Michael Penix, right? Michael Penix, when he played at Washington last year, right, for DeBoer, they opened up the field at Washington, and Michael Penix became a Heisman candidate in the first-round pick. Controversial first-round pick with Atlanta, but he became that.
Yes.
And so I think Milroe is going to thrive in that system, Eric. And I think you need some sometimes you need a new voice, a breath of fresh air, right? You stifled under the great Nick Saban. Whereas I think everything's going to be opened up. Guys are going to be playing more free. And that's why I think Alabama is going to win the SEC this year.
Ooh.
I think Ohio State has the most talent, but I got Alabama winning the SEC.
Frank, with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma being added on to the conference.
Hey, that's a great thing. So let me tell you this.
That's tough.
Right?
That's tough.
I think my top four, I got Texas in my top four. Oklahoma, I mean, Arnold was starting their quarterback. You know, he was a high-level recruit in high school, but they lost Gabriel, right, to Oregon, who was a very good quarterback, Eric.
Yep.
Right? He's going to Oregon. So that's going to make Oregon my fifth team, a top five team. I think Texas would be good with yours, right? You talk about Oklahoma. I'm not worried about Oklahoma coming in and getting ahead of Alabama.
Yeah.
The two teams I'm worried about in the SEC as an Alabama person is Georgia, obviously, like you said earlier. You could argue top program, and Texas, right? Texas brings back a lot from last year's team that was very national championship good, right? In the four, right? I think Texas is going to be very, very, very good this year. The question is, they lost 2 or 3 running backs, right, already to injury before the season starts. So I think they're going to probably be starting, running backs with minimal experience. Okay. Question to you, E. If Texas stumbles a little bit, okay, do you replace Ewers with Manning?
I think so. I think it's time. I think it's time. If, like you said, if Ewers stumbles, I think it's Manning's time. Manning had a great spring game. I think he threw for like 11. He threw for 7 out of 11. Took his team.
No, it was more than that. It was like 370 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yes, and he took his team down.
Look, it was like 370 and 3 touchdowns. I mean, he was amazing in the spring game.
I think that if he stumbles out the gate, I think that you'll see a change in the quarterback position. But let me say one thing about the Milrose kid. That kid, I don't like Alabama, but that kid, I like him because he faced some adversity during the season where he got benched,
Yep.
and it showed his mental toughness where he got benched and came off the bench, took his team to the national to the playoffs, and he played well enough to win that game. Unfortunately, they lost. I think it was a bad call by Nick Saban, but that's here nor there. But the kid, I like him because he faced some adversity and he overcame that adversity. I like him for that.
Yeah, I love him, and I think Milroe, in my opinion, is the best um, draftable quarterback in this draft. Carson Beck is great, a little bit more prototypical, but I think Milroe is the best quarterback in this draft, in my opinion. And I know you want to talk about your boy Shedeur in that conversation. We'll get there in a second. I know you chomping at the bits to tell me how you want to genuflect at the Deion Sanders altar as you always do.
No.
Right? You want to genuflect.
Let me ask you this,
man. There I go again with the big words.
Let me ask you this, man.
But hold on. Before you ask me, let me just ask you one question. So you were Heisman Trophy candidate winner.
Yes.
Right? Played in Texas high school football. Right?
Yes.
Number one player in the country coming out of high school from Texas.
Yes.
All right? If he stumbles, how can you replace him with Manning?
How can you replace him with Manning?
They get out the gate. They're 3-2, 4-2. They're 4-1. They lose 4-2, right? Are you replacing them with Manning at that point?
4-2, no. 4-2, no. But now they stumble. They come out the gate. 1-3. Yes, you replace them. But 4-2.
1-2. 1-2. 1-2.
Wow. 1-2. No, you don't replace him. You don't replace him then. I think.
Okay. I think you might be right at 1-3. You get. I think you're right, E. But the guy, man, it's hard. Like I feel like Manning is fine sitting, E, for one more year and then inheriting the starting job for 2 years straight. I think Manning should have redshirted his first year because that backup quarterback who transferred to Duke, E, is a good player. He's starting at Duke this year.
Yes.
Right. The backup kid, the black kid, was a good player.
Yes.
Right. And he's transferring to Duke. Manning should have sat because then I would give Manning 3 years. But I guess Manning feel like I'm a Manning, so all I need is one good year to go to the league. But I feel like he should have sat, right?
Sure.
The first year, but he didn't. But man, do you have a controversy, E, with Ewers if you start 1-2, E? I think it's gonna be crazy. Sure, you start 0-1, they're gonna be calling for Ewers' head. Crazy. But anyway, go ahead. I know you had a question, E. Tell me, what was your question?
The Alabama hiring. Do you think that was the right hire, or do you think the guy from Clemson was deserving of that job?
Well, E, I think the Alabama hiring, that wasn't their first guy, clearly, right? They went after a few guys before, and then at the end of the day, when you can't get the guys you want, you got to settle somewhere. And I think they settled on a good guy. But is he the pedigree guy that you hope that would have taken the Alabama job? No. I think he coached at Fresno State, if I'm not mistaken. He coached at Fresno State. Then he got Indiana, I believe. Then he got Washington, right? I think that was the road to Alabama. But he wasn't the first guy. But I do think that he's an offensive-minded guy, right? What he did at Washington was fantastic, okay? And I think Washington, by the way, is an underrated program.
Yes.
Washington has been good for a lot of years, and I think they have good facilities, and that's an underrated program.
Yes.
But that's another conversation. So do I think the Clemson guy, Dabo Swinney, would have been the more ideal pick? He was a walk-on at Alabama, right? He played at Alabama. He made his bones at Clemson. He built the Clemson program. And by the way, if I was him, I would have wanted to take the Alabama job because the Clemson program is on the way down, E.
Yeah.
Right, so if I was Dabo, I would have found the way to take the Alabama job because the NIL and the SEC, right, and the amount of opportunity at Alabama is bigger. But I guess he's complacent at Clemson. He ran his program there. So Dabo would have been the pick the darling pick, E, that everybody would have loved.
Yeah.
Right? Dabo would have been the darling pick that everybody would have loved. But they went down the line, and a lot of the guys they wanted, they couldn't get. Some of them had deals already, and so they got a guy that was good and available. I mean, I don't think he was the first pick, but I think it's a solid hire. Not great, E, but a solid hire.
Yeah. I mean, a solid hire.
So
I'll give him that. I think Dabo would have been the ideal guy, right? Having Alabama ties. I think Clemson is on the downhill, like you said. I mean, he's taken Clemson to you know, to the mountaintop. I don't think
Yes.
there's nothing he can do there. That's it. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, I mean, but he can build it to like what Bobby Bowden built at Florida State, right? Like he can build that out, where he's like legendary. Like I mean, because they've won championships like Bowden did, right? I mean, he can build Clemson and leave Clemson legendary. He's already legendary,
Yeah.
but to stay there for 30 years, win national championships and what he's done for the program is great,
Yeah.
right? And by the way, my top 5 is rounded out by Oregon, which I think the guy over at Oregon is great, right? Um, um, I think Gabriel is going to be in a Heisman conversation, right? I think Dylan Gabriel. I think he was definitely last year at Oklahoma, had a great year there. I think before that he was at UCF and had a fantastic year there as well. I think Oregon, what they're building there is impressive. Young coach was, I think, a defensive coordinator, Eric, for Georgia.
Yes.
But he's recruiting good and bringing players. So I think that's a good team. I think Michigan's going to take a big step backwards. Good running back there, but new quarterback, new coach. They won't be the same. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay, as we talk about college football, why do you think they get it so wrong with recruits? Okay, and so I'm gonna tell you, and I'm forgetting Eric, the young man's name, but what's the kid that was the number 1 player, a top player in the country, coming out of high school, and he signed with USC, played at USC last year as a backup, transferred to Boise State from USC this year, right? A kid from California. I got to get his name. Played at USC this year.
Number 1 pick. I mean, number 1 player.
High school player. It was him and Maiden. It was him and Manning's kid, and he passed Manning's kid. He passed the Manning kid, and he was the number 1 player out of California in the country. Goes to USC.
Yeah.
All right, doesn't work out at USC this year, right? He was backing up Caleb Williams. Obviously, he's not going to play there. But anyway, stayed.
Yeah.
Didn't work out. Transferred to Boise State this year. I got to get his name, Eric. I got to get his name, because we do it real here,
Yeah.
and I don't want to not say the man's name. QB.
Got you right now.
No, I want to get it, because we Yeah, Malachi Nelson.
Okay.
5-star recruit, Malachi Nelson, right?
Yes.
5-star recruit. 5-star recruit from California, goes to USC. He's the next in line, right? He's going to play behind Caleb for 1 year. Then the ball is in his hands.
Yes.
Okay? USC then realized, because, everybody likes Lincoln Riley. Okay? He's the quarterback whisperer. That's the feeling. Right? Look, Caleb. He goes there, Eric. Can't, first year not great. They realize he's probably not as good as they thought he was.
Yeah.
Okay. He transfers to Boise State, Eric. And guess what? He gets beat out for that job, right, by Maddox Madsen. So he was the number 1 player in the country coming out of high school.
Yeah.
And he can't start at Boise State. Why do you think, as we having an aside, before we get into your boy Shedeur and Colorado, why do you think they get it wrong so much, Eric? They get it wrong often in college football, right? Recruits get recruited very high. Young guys that are not recruited high end up taking the jobs, quarterback positions, all kind of positions. It's amazing, Eric, that a kid can be the number 1 recruit in the nation ahead of the Manning kid. Okay, USC is a hard place to play, but Boise State, Eric, really?
I think they get it wrong, Frank, because so many kids to watch, Frank, and as you know, there's 80 to 90 players on a college team. I mean, there's so many kids playing all over the country. They can't see everybody. That's why you got a lot of kids that are 3-star recruits, and next thing you know, they're first-round draft picks, because there's so many kids.
Crazy.
So many kids that you can't see them all. You can't see them all. I don't care how many people they put out there. You can't see them all. And a lot of times they get it wrong with some of these guys. Some of these guys are bigger, stronger than some of these guys early on, and then a guy like a 3-star recruit continues to work, and eventually he surpasses the guy that's a 5-star recruit.
But it's crazy.
Frank, I think a lot of it has to do with the school you play for. If you're down at the IMG Academy and you're down in one of them schools, and you're a big quarterback, you're gonna get highly recruited, and you're gonna, So I think it's those are the factors.
So let me say this. I agree with you. I think those are very important factors to take into consideration when you think about these players. But it used to be like in the basketball circuit, the high school basketball circuit. You got the EYBL, you got Nike, and you get a chance to see all the players. The Adidas has a circuit, but now they have the 7-on-7 football everywhere. So they have a circuit now for football. So I would agree with it. Used to be that way where the players weren't getting exposure, but now they have so many camps and so many exposure camps, etc. The players are getting more exposure. It's just crazy how often you miss. Most basketball kids don't miss.
Yeah.
The kids that are normally ranked the highest in basketball, Eric, they don't miss normally. Now some of them, whatever. But it's crazy to me how many times they miss with these 5-star recruits with football and how bad they end up being.
Yeah.
It's crazy, Eric. I mean, but even not even Eric, top 100 kids. We're talking about like number 1 kid in the nation, good kids that go to programs and don't play.
Yeah.
Crazy. In football. But anyway, E, now we got to get to your bum team that you always want to talk about, your bum coach who don't care about the kids as much as you think he does. I think he cares about the kids a little bit,
Yeah.
but he cares about his brand and his kids, right?
Yeah.
Your boy, Deion Sanders. Let me hear it. Just so you know, and we spoke about this on the show, E, right? We got on the show how many wins you think they'll get this year and how many wins I think they get this year, okay? We got to bring up Deion Sanders, lightning rod or whatever. Okay, E, is this a make or break year for Deion? And when I say make or break, obviously not going to fire him, but I mean make or break in terms of perception, in terms of people like you. I'm talking about people like you, right? Who worships the ground that he walks on.
I think it's a make it a break year for him, just because of the fact of, he talks. He's a talker, Frank. So. If
I like it. Tell me, he talks what?
If you talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. And I think this the year, he's, when he came in, he said we're gonna win now. So we're here now. So come on, Deion. We all expecting you to have a great year this year. I said 9 wins. So let's see. You know what I'm saying? You talk. You my guy, Deion. But you do talk a lot. You got a mouthpiece on you. So now I want you that to translate over to wins now. Let's start on a win side, on a win column. Let's start winning some games now, Deion. Let's go. And they got my man Warren Sapp. And they got my man Warren Sapp there. So Warren Sapp is.
What are you gonna do?
Defensive line coach.
What are you gonna do? Teach you how to eat more hot dogs? What are Warren Sapp gonna do?
Come on, Frank is a legend. Frank Deion, come on. Warren Sapp is a legend.
Just because Deion shows you a legendary football player, normally those are not the better coaches. I think we know that. If you look at most guys who coach football, you talk about at the highest level. You talk about Nick Saban. You talked about Dabo Swinney. You talk about Kirby Smart at Georgia. All of these guys are football players. Fair enough?
Yeah. But
none of those guys were elite football
players.
He's
not a head coach.
There are very few.
He's not a head coach.
Huh?
He's not a head coach. He's a defensive lineman coach. He could.
Well, but I'm just saying with Deion Sanders as well, right? With Deion and Warren Sapp, you can put all those pretty names on a piece of paper, but it doesn't mean that normally the better coaches are not the better players across sports, right?
You're right about that.
Right? I mean, that's normally the case. But let me say this, and listen, Warren Sapp is an all-time great, right? Pass rusher, big mouth guy, talk a lot of trash, all that kind of stuff, right? His addition as like some quality control coach ain't gonna move the meter, right? He's like a quality, like, come on, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not even a coordinator. You acting like Warren Sapp is going to come in. Come on,
he's the give back coach. The give back coach.
Come on, bro. Stop. But let me say this. E, all of you people are all believing in the smoke screen, right? Deion Sanders don't care about the kids as much as you think. I think he does care about the kids collaterally, right? But I think his primary purpose, he's the biggest self-promoter we've ever seen before, right? That has done nothing as a coach. Phenomenal football player, the best cornerback in the history of the game. We can say that emphatically. Darrelle Revis may have something to say about that, right? Revis Island was great. But the great Deion Sanders as a football player was great. Pretty decent baseball player too, but an amazing football player.
Yeah.
Okay? As a coach, right, he's fallen well below the bar that he set with his mouth, as you talk about. All he does is talk, okay? And, the year they had last year was disgraceful based upon his talk, right? The year would have been okay, Eric, minus the talk. Your boy, okay? Disgraceful. all of what talk, bragging when they got up to the start, and then wasn't accountable as a coach, didn't want to be held accountable as they started losing and the losses kept piling up. Then it was the offensive line's fault. It was the coach's fault. So when they were winning, the same guys are there, the same defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators and the same people are there. But Deion was taking all the credit. Deion's a genius. Every rapper wanted to go down to Colorado to be at a game. Everybody wanted to be. He was a genius, right? Then when they start losing, okay, the offensive, I think he demoted one of the coordinators, right, to a different position. Had another offensive
coordinator. He demoted him.
And then it was everybody else's fault but his, okay? Right? His son had the same offensive line early in the year when he was throwing the ball all over the field in the weak Big 12, just throwing the ball all over the field, right, where there's no defense. Then all of a sudden, teams started the game plan, right, and Colorado didn't adjust. And now all of a sudden, you got the worst offensive line in the NFL, in college football. Well, were they the worst offensive line when you was throwing for 500 yards and you were beating everybody 47 to 44?
I mean, listen, Frank, let me say this, Frank.
Come on, bro. And by the way, does Deion care about the kids?
Of course.
As much as he says he does. As much as he says he does.
Of course he does, Frank. Of course he does.
Well, hold on. I said he cares about the kids. We agree on that. But as much as he says he does.
Yes, he does, Frank. I mean, this guy wants to see these young men succeed. And he's all about, creating an environment where these kids come in and he turns these young kids into men. That's the that's Deion's model. The football is one thing, but turning these young men into great fathers, great husbands, leaders of tomorrow. That's what he stands by on, Frank. Like, we get caught up in all the hoopla and all this stuff about him and all this talk and all that stuff. But deep down inside, man, this is a God-fearing man that believes that he's making an impact on these kids' lives. Let's not take that away from Deion, man. Deion is doing a great job.
Okay.
Come on, Frank. Don't do that.
Should I comment now?
Yeah, well, you can comment, but don't do that. Don't do that.
He's the biggest me guy I've ever seen before. Don't act like he's doing this for the kids primarily. He's doing this for me. Let me tell you this, okay? Let's talk about what happened. Don't tell me in lip service about raising men and all this kind of garbage, okay? He came to Colorado, and me and you both agreed. On the record now, we're going to say this on the camera. We both agreed that the way he handled dismissing all those players that were previously at Colorado was distasteful and wrong. We agreed on that. Hold on, okay? So that speaks to him caring about kids. If he cared about the kids when he came there, he would have, and I understand he had to get, maybe because of the portal and competing, he had to get rid of some players.
Yes.
But he wasn't helping those players find schools. He wasn't coming there. What he was telling them was this: you suck and you out of here. And I'm bringing my new players and go somewhere else. And he encouraged them to jump in the portal. And so that's not a leader of men that's trying to help young men in general, okay? And then Eric, after this year, they were hemorrhaging losing players. More players left there than most programs in football. You know that, okay? So if he's such a leader of men and he has all these kids' best interests at heart, and he's treating these other kids so good, first of all, he kicked out all the kids from the old regime disrespectfully, okay? Then all the kids that were still with him this year, the majority of them left too. Not the majority, but a significant portion of that. That's not indicative of a guy that's fostering relationships and trying to help kids. What he is a self-promoter. He's trying to help his kids. He's trying to help Shedeur get to be a top pick in the NFL. Shiloh be successful in Hunter. And the kids that he himself favors. Okay? Now, collaterally, will some kids get helped because of all of that? Yeah, yes. But that's, Eric, his actions as it relates to the players when he came there, and his actions as it relates to the players since he's been here, and all of them are leaving, the mass exodus is not congruent. Big word again, congruent. It's not congruent with a guy that's in it for the kids. So stop that narrative. And let me be clear, because I want to make sure I say this. I am not saying that Deion Sanders doesn't have some level of care for kids. I do agree that he probably does. But it's 100% not his number one motivation helping kids. It's 100% not what he's doing. He's self-promoting, and he's trying to help his kids and the kids that he favors. And the other kids are collateral damage, okay, to his overall me, goal. So stop that nonsense, bro. Bro,
Frank, let me say this.
I'm listening.
On
Say it.
behalf of Deion Sanders, I think he's doing a great job.
How you gonna speak on behalf of Deion Sanders? Come on, bro. But anyway, go ahead.
Deion Sanders, my guy. Listen, he's
Come
done
on,
a
man.
great job. You know,
Great
done a
job
great job.
of what? Besides self-promoting.
Done a great job. He's taken Colorado to new heights. We've never seen Colorado with this much exposure. Number one. That's number one.
But just to be clear, when you say take new, let me just say Colorado's won a national championship before. I'm just gonna say that.
Okay, they did.
So in terms of bluster and nonsense, but Colorado has won a national championship before. So he ain't so new heights. Stop that. They've won. He won 3 games last year with 3 or 4 games last year.
In today's market revenue, Colorado has never seen.
That matters.
That matters. This is a business.
But they won the national championship before.
They did. It was cold.
Okay. So let's just say that.
I think it was cold national championship, but if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, and they had a Heisman Trophy winner, the running back. I forgot his name.
Cordell Stewart was very good. Cordell Stewart was very good.
So again, what he's done for Colorado from an economic standpoint is phenomenal. Like he's taken Colorado.
Here we go. Self-promoting. He's a promotions genius. He's a marketing guy. Amazing.
And also
he can't coach, but he's a good marketing guy. So put him in the marketing department, E.
Listen, Frank.
Make him a fundraiser. He can't coach.
His son Shiloh, not Shiloh, Shador into a top pick in next year's draft. Obviously, you got Travis Hunter, who's going to be a top pick in next year's draft. Shiloh will be like a 3rd or 4th round pick. I mean, he's doing a phenomenal job, Frank. Let's not discredit him based on wins and losses. I know his mouth gets him into trouble a lot, but at the same time, let's look at the overall picture of what he's doing for Colorado and what he's doing for college football. Let's look at that. You know, at Jackson State, what he did.
I don't know what he did for college football, but self-promoting. But let me say this. Okay, E. Okay, so Shiloh, right, will be probably a later round pick, right? Maybe 3rd at the best. Okay, and I like Shiloh. I think I love it. I feel like he gets after it, right? You know, I'm mixed on Shador. I think Shador is a good player. I think Shador will be a 1st round pick for sure,
yes.
Right? But let me ask you a question. Does Shador get picked ahead of Milroe? Does he get picked ahead of Carson Beck?
I mean, I believe so. I mean,
no way.
The guy is accurate. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college football, Frank. The guy is accurate, Frank.
Well, listen, I think he's a 1st round pick. Listen, one thing I'll say, I think he's a later 1st round pick, but I think he's a 1st round pick. But all this number 1 quarterback in the draft garbage, Deion said last year he spoke to people and his son would have been a number 1 quarterback in the draft. Go back to sleep. No, he would not have been. Go back to sleep.
Oh, boy. I hear you, Frank. I hear you, man.
Right? But listen, 1st round pick, right? And by the way, I'm not sure Travis Hunter's a 1st round pick.
Huh?
Because, look, let me say this, E, right? When you look at all the preseason All-American lists, you're talking about, right, all the preseason lists, 1st team and 2nd team preseason All-American lists, Eric, he's on no list as a cornerback, excuse me. And Shador's not either. A 1st team or 2nd team all preseason pick, okay? So, and by the way, Travis Hunter, there are many cornerbacks ahead of him, right, that are picked ahead of him.
Oh, man,
right? So he's the all-purpose player, but he's not an elite cornerback. He's not an elite cornerback, Eric.
Wow.
He's a very good athlete, but E, is Travis Hunter an elite cornerback?
I mean, there's still things he needs to learn, of course. I don't think he's an elite cornerback, but I think he's a guy that can transform into an elite corner. I mean, look at Sauce. Sauce coming out of Cincinnati, big, long.
Was elite.
Huh?
Was elite.
Yeah.
Sauce was elite coming out of Cincinnati.
Big, long, rangy, athletic corner. Same as Travis Hunter. You know, athletic.
Eric, you can't do that. Sauce was elite in college. He was almost like Revis Island. No, I mean, when Sauce was at Cincinnati, he was elite. Travis Hunter has not shown us at the high level yet that he's an elite corner. He's not, E. And that's why preseason, he's not one of the top corners in the nation, right? When you look at the preseason rankings of cornerbacks. He's not an elite cornerback.
I'm looking at the attributes that Travis Hunter has. Some of the
But you got to have both, Eric. You have to have performance to go along with attributes. You're not taking the guy in the first round in football as a corner, right, based upon attributes and mediocre result.
No, he has game film. I mean, the only game that he got torched was the game against, I forgot the game he got torched. That's because he was
The kid from Stanford had like 227 yards against
going
him.
both ways. I mean, he's going both ways.
No, Eric, but he's not. But he's not known as an elite corner, bro. He's not.
So what is he then?
I'm not sure.
What is he?
What he is, Eric, is he's a Swiss Army knife guy, right? You put him out there, okay, as a cover corner, he's below average, okay? Will he get you an interception from time to time and maybe have some and maybe be able to take it back to the house? Maybe, okay? But what he can do is return kicks, okay? They play him at wide receiver in the slot, right? So he can play on the slot, but you can't do that in the NFL, right? So in the NFL, he's gonna have to play a position, right? The position in the NFL is gonna be cornerback, okay? He's a below average corner.
So
he's not elite.
Let me ask you this.
He's gonna be a cornerback and a kick returner in college, in the NFL. Excuse me.
Let me ask you this. This might be a stretch. Is he somewhat in the realm of like a Charles Woodson?
Eric, how can you say that, man? Charles Woodson was the best cornerback.
Army knife. Did everything.
Eric, but doing everything, Charles Woodson was the best cornerback in college football.
Okay.
As well as the best return man in college football. This guy is, first of all, right, is not an elite corner. Charles Woodson is a Heisman Trophy caliber player.
Well, he did win the Heisman.
Yes. Heisman. And Eric, he was the best cornerback in college football. Hands down. Shut down corner.
What are we talking about? Okay.
Shut down corner.
We're talking about doing everything. We're talking about everything.
You can do everything, Eric, but in the NFL, you have to be elite at a position in the first round. Charles Woodson was the best cornerback in college football. Shut down. So even though you can be a Swiss Army knife, when you get to the NFL, okay, you have to be great at something to be in the first round.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Right? Hey, let me tell you a team who I think, let's stop talking about bum Deion Sanders and a 3 or 4 win team last year. Why am I wasting my time talking about these bums? E, I got a question, E. I'm gonna tell you a team that's under the radar, and you better be careful because Brian Kelly's a good coach. Okay, he's a good recruiter. I think LSU is a team that's going to surprise some people this year. When you think about the SEC, there's not enough talk about LSU, E. Right? You hear a lot of talk about Alabama. You hear a lot of Texas and a lot of Georgia talk. Remember, I said this. Be careful when it comes to LSU.
That's your dark horse.
Be careful. That's my dark horse.
Okay, you know who's my dark horse?
That's my dark horse.
My dark horse in the SEC? Ole Miss.
Oh, no way, bro. Please, go back to sleep.
Ole Miss, baby. Ole Miss.
That dark horse, please.
Frank, they've been knocking on the door for a couple of years. I think this year they
But Eric, remember all their recruits and their players left.
Yeah.
They had the elite running back who left. All their recruits left last minute. They're losing everybody. It's hemorrhaging. The ship be a sinking.
But in today with the transfer portal, Frank, you could stockpile talent.
Nah, but this year, E, they ain't that this year, E.
Oh man,
they ain't that this year.
That's my dark horse.
Nah,
LSU, I got Ole Miss. That's my dark horse. I got Ole Miss. We're gonna see.
I don't know about that one, E.
Yeah,
I don't know about
that one. Put a little wager on that. We haven't bet in a little while. We can put a little wager on that.
E, I think another team that could be decent this year as well, as we're talking about teams that could be not a dark horse good, right? And it's not a dark horse. I think Florida State could be dangerous too, right? Because I think DJ Uglio, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Uglialea, I believe it's pronounced. Yeah. Kid from California with the St. John Bosco, yes. Big quarterback, 6'5", 250, failed at Clemson, right? But then went to Oregon State, I believe it was, had a decent year. I think he's a good step in at that level. Florida State has always great recruits, position players, really good coach there. I think that's not a dark horse team for me, but I think that's another team that I think could be good. You know what I mean? Could be good. I think Florida State, with the energy around that program, et cetera, could be a good team.
Frank, did you see last year's bowl game? I mean, without their quarterback, they lost like 45 to like.
Wait, hold on, Eric. Without two quarterbacks. I mean, they were on the third string quarterback, bro. Let's be fair.
Okay.
I mean, let's be fair.
Let's be fair.
Let's
They
be
got
fair.
smacked, Frank. They got smacked. Frank.
They did, but let's be fair. I mean, and by the way, they got to the national championship game. I mean, not the national championship, but they got, and we know they should have been in the bowl series, right? But I understand why they didn't get voted in, because with a third string quarterback, they weren't one of the top 4 teams in the country. But with most of those same players, they were a top 4 team in the country before the quarterbacks got hurt.
Okay.
Jordan Travis got hurt and the backup got hurt.
Okay.
So now Uglialea,
Whatever his name is, DJ.
he's DJ. Yeah, we call him DJ. Good player, E. Fair enough.
Good player. I mean, I just think
Good player.
I just think he was overhyped coming into college football, because at one point he was the number 1 quarterback in front of like
He was.
C.J. Stroud.
It was him and the Bryce kid. Right? I mean, that got drafted number 1. They went to Alabama.
Yes.
And then got drafted number 1 by the Panthers, right? Those are the best quarterbacks in the country.
Yes.
And remember, he was supposed to be the replacement for your boy, the bum who got the money with the Jaguars.
He's not a bum, Frank. My man Trevor Lawrence. Come on, Frank. He's not a bum.
Pretty boy, long hair, don't care, and can't win no games. But anyway, we'll see. But anyway, he was supposed to be his replacement.
Yes, he was. It didn't work out at Clemson. I mean, you know, I'm not a Clemson fan. I'm not a Debo. I mean, I'm not a Dabo guy. So listen, let's see if he can turn it around at Florida State. But he not winning that game against, my team, baby. He ain't winning that game this year. No way.
Yeah, the U is back. The U is back, E. The U is back. I got to give you that. They got to show it on the field. E. But right now, they look like the best team in the ACC this year.
Well, I'm not.
Right?
I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm gonna wait and see how they perform. Because sometimes I get ahead of myself. I'm just gonna wait to see. We play Florida first game at the Swamp. Let's go, Canes. Let's go, baby. The big.
Yeah, I got a question for you. I got a team. So just so you know, I think the U on paper is the best team in the ACC. But as you know, you got to do it on the field, right? This is the year where you're gonna find out if the U is real.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes.
This is the year. I think the U is, again, Miami's the best in the ACC this year. Now, E, I'm gonna look into the camera and I'm gonna ask you about one team, E. Okay. The most overhyped and overrated team in college football is who, E?
Overhyped. Oh.
So let me tell you who, E. You ready for this?
Go ahead, Frank. Go ahead. I was gonna say a name, but go ahead. I'll let you go first.
USC, E.
Okay, let's say USC. I was gonna say.
Hey, E. And remember this now, okay? USC, right? They starting a guy who shouldn't be starting right now. Been in the program for years as a backup. They got the quarterback whisperer, right? Lincoln Riley can't play no defense. We know that, right? But E, let's not forget this part though. They're going to the Big Ten this year.
Yeah.
E, going to the Big Ten this year. Going into the Big Ten this year where defense is at a max.
Yeah.
The SEC and the Big Ten are probably the 2 best defensive leagues, okay, in college football. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
And the best 2 conferences probably in college football, okay? You tell me USC now, and by the way, you no longer in the Pac-12 playing against all these, air it out, no defense places, like the Big 12 and the Pac-12, no defense places. And you going to places like Michigan, Ohio State, it's cold in Iowa, right, in the wintertime. You think them little USC boys, USC might win 5 to 6 games this year. They might, for all the Lincoln Riley hype, he left Oklahoma, they brought him out here to USC, they might win 5 to 6 games. They may be a 500 team this year, or maybe 1 game over 500. How are they going to survive in the Big Ten? Playing no defense.
Yeah,
and with no real quarterback.
They don't play no defense. That's
and they don't have the Caleb Williams guy. They don't have Lincoln Riley, quarterback whisperer, when he had all these players, right? Jalen Hurts, right? He was great for him. Kyler Murray. These are high level quarterbacks. Caleb Williams. Even the kid they got, Spencer, the kid Rattler. right? Who was one of the best quarterbacks in Arizona schoolboy history, and he was with him at Oklahoma. And Rattler ended up being a good player at South Carolina, I believe it was.
But no, he didn't even play at Oklahoma.
Who?
The kid, Rattler.
Rattler, no, he started. He started. Remember, the first year he started. And then what's his name took his job. Caleb Williams took his job into the second year. He started the first year. And had a good year. No, Rattler started. But the point I'm making to you is, right, no elite quarterback on the roster right now. Okay? You know they don't play D. Okay? And going into the Big Ten.
Yes.
With Ohio State, with Michigan, you even talk about teams like Iowa.
Yeah, those are the top.
Iowa State.
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, it's tough. It's gonna be tough for them California boys to come out there to the Midwest.
What driving all, flying across the country? What you think those boys they're used to California sun gonna feel like when they get off the plane and they're in Wisconsin?
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for them. It's gonna be tough.
And it's 5 degrees out with no running game and no defense.
You know who's always been one of my overrated teams? Notre Dame. For some reason, these guys are so. For some reason, these guys are always in the top 10. They have mediocre years and then come back and be in the top 10 and always in the competition for the playoffs. Come on, man. I think we got to get off that horse and start looking at other teams because it's like Notre Dame is always in the running, and they're not that good.
So let me say this, I think Notre Dame is an overrated program in general, right? But let me say this. I think Notre Dame will have a good year this year. They'll probably win, 8-3 or something like that. I think, USC will be a 500 team. I think because that quarterback Leonard Riley, that kid from Duke,
yes,
he's very, very good, Eric.
Yeah, he's okay.
He transferred to Notre Dame this year.
Okay.
They got a very, very good quarterback, and they always recruit well. And they're good players. Yeah. Now you're right, Eric. And by the way, they play in no conference, right? They select their games. Okay, they don't play a brutal, murderous road like you get in the SEC or you get in the Big Ten. Okay, that's why they're always. I always tell you this. That's why they always lose, Eric, in the very end, because ultimately they can't. They pick their schedule. They got Army, Navy, right? They play USC. They play Stanford. They play, NC State. They don't have an elite schedule.
Yes, that's true.
Right? So they handpick Pitt most years. They handpick their schedule, Eric, okay? And then they go play. They win the majority of their games. But when they get into the bowls and all that kind of stuff, they get smacked every year, right? Because they haven't gotten the seasoning. Listen, the kid, Leonard Riley's very good. The kid was very good at Duke before he got hurt when he sprained his ankle, remember. They got a very good quarterback. They got very good position players, good against on a defensive line. They lost Joe Alt, who was an elite offensive lineman to the NFL, right? Top pick. So they have to replace him. But I think Notre Dame, Eric, is a top 10 team this year. Now, I understand they put them in the national championship conversation, but I think USC is going to have a precipitous fall. Big word again, E. Precipitous fall. Right? I think Notre Dame will still be top 10 this year.
Notre Dame makes the playoffs this year. 12 teams.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they do, E. With 12 teams, because they won't play anybody. I mean, their schedule won't be hard. Who's going to beat them? USC is a team that will potentially beat them every year, but they're not going to lose to USC.
But doesn't strength of schedule count as a factor of getting in the playoff? I think.
But Eric, a lot of times it doesn't, right? Because sometimes, as long as you win, it does. It's a variable. But let's look at their schedule.
Notre Dame, Fighting Irish. What's their schedule?
Right. I mean, I love the fact that we do this on the show, E. Right. So they got Texas A&M.
Okay.
So let's look at the schedule, E. Right. Hold on. Oh no, hold on. I think that might have been last year. All right. So they got Texas A&M, E. Right. That's a game they should win. Fair enough.
Where at?
They got North.
Where at? Depends where they play.
I don't know where. But they got Texas A&M, right? They got Northern Illinois. Obviously, they're going to win that. They got Purdue, They're going to win that. They got Miami, Ohio. They should win that. They got Louisville. They should win that. They got Stanford.
They're not going to beat Louisville. But go ahead.
They got Eric. Louisville's not even in the top 25. Just for clarity. They're not in the top 25 this year.
Okay. They play Stanford.
Right? And the guy and the quarterback that played there is the coach there. Good coach. He coached at Purdue, I believe it was, before he got there. But they're not in the top 25. Okay. They got Georgia Tech, not top 25 team. They got Stanford, Navy, Florida State is good, top 10, right? Then they got Virginia, Army, and USC.
Oh.
Now you look at that schedule, Eric. Who's gonna beat them on that schedule?
Florida State.
So that's what I'm telling you. They're gonna lose probably 2 games. They'll probably lose to Florida State, you guess, right? But that could be a loss, and then they may stumble up somewhere else, right? Somebody else will beat them. Right, like you say, Louisville may upset them. But they only got one top 10 team, and that's Florida State, that's 10, right? Outside of that, top 25, you got USC, that's 23, right? And Texas A&M, that's 20. Yeah. So, they got 20, 23, and 10. They ain't playing nobody. That's what I'm telling you. So their schedule is handmade for them. They're going to lose 1 or 2 of those games, and they're going to. You don't think they'll be a top 10 team this year?
Yeah, I mean, with that schedule, they should be a top.
That's what I'm telling you. They handpicked their schedule.
Stuff that Notre Dame brings the notoriety, them being independent, all that stuff. Yeah, they'll be a top.
Yes. And like you just say, they travel well and they got power. They got their own TV network. They come on ABC, whatever, CBS. All their games come on, or not CBS, one of the channels. All their games come on. Huh? NBC, all their games come on. They got a powerful network. If they got an 8-2 record or something like that, they in.
Okay.
They in. So, all right, well, listen. I know we're going to talk about some other stuff, but I think, the college football preview is going to be fantastic. Yes. I'm excited. It's going to be a great year, We are at this time of the show where we allow you, to talk about some of your Dominican brothers and sisters out there in the marketplace doing their thing. Who you got for me? I got to shout you out. You had the young lady, you talked about her on the show. She went out there and won the 400 at the Olympics. Shout out to her. Who you got now,
I'm going big. I'm going to shout out the president of the Dominican Republic, Luis Amarabelli. He did a phenomenal job welcoming that young girl back home, and he's taken upon himself now to give this young lady anywhere between 20 to 25 million pesos. They renovated her house. They did so much stuff for this young lady. And I'm so proud of the Dominican government for going out of their way to, do these great things for this young lady who comes from very, very humble beginnings. So shout out to the president of the Dominican Republic, Luis Amarabel. Thank you so much. We love you. De lo mío, siempre.
Yo, Luis, bring us down to the DR, baby. Let's put the show on the biggest network in the DR.
Yes.
Let's have the biggest show in the DR. Luis, come holler at us, baby. Come holler at us, Luis.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
Well, shout out to Luis and shout out to that young lady again who did a great job, and hopefully that she becomes a hero and they take care of her back in the DR. Yes. It's always great talking to you, buddy. Football season is coming. NFL football season. We'll talk about that soon too, Until the next time, my brother. I'm out.
Yes.
Love.
Always.